All right. Well, good afternoon again. Welcome on this not quite so snowy evening as we were anticipating. So I appreciate everyone being here. This is the Cambridge Community Electricity Program information session. Just to note that we do often refer to this program as CCE for short. So throughout the session, I may be referring it to by the full name or just by this abbreviated name. So my name is Brad Pillen. I'm an energy engagement planner with the City of Cambridge. And I'm also joined by Megan Shaw from the City of Cambridge and Natalie Reeder from our partner organization, All in Energy. This information session is being recorded, and we will be sharing it to the Cambridge Community Development Department YouTube page in the near future. We will leave time for questions at the end. You'll be able to raise your hand and I will unmute you if you want to ask a question. You can also submit a question at any time using the Q&A button on the toolbar near the bottom of your screen. So the Cambridge Community Electricity Program is an official City of Cambridge program that negotiates a supply price for all electricity accounts in Cambridge. So this includes both residential and commercial accounts. CCE is also the default or automatic electricity supplier for all accounts in Cambridge. This means that all electricity accounts are automatically enrolled in CCE when they're opened, and they remain enrolled unless action is taken to opt out. So on your bill, there's two things that you pay for: a supply charge and a delivery charge. The supply charge is the price you pay for the actual electricity that you use. And the delivery charge on your bill includes the cost of maintaining the electric grid and infrastructure to deliver the electricity to your home. So what this means for you is that when you're enrolled in CCE, only the supply portion of your bill will be affected by being enrolled in the program. So the city negotiates a supply price for electricity with an electricity supplier through this program, and the delivery costs remain unchanged. So this is an example bill from Eversource. You can see both the supply and the delivery costs highlighted. So when you're enrolled in CCE, your bill will still come from Eversource, and only the supply portion of it will be affected. You can see if you're enrolled, if the electric supplier on your bill is listed as Cambridge Com Elect Direct Energy, then you're enrolled in the program. So there's a number of benefits and reasons that we recommend Cambridge residents be enrolled in CCE. The first is price stability. The City of Cambridge just entered a new 2-year contract with Direct Energy as our electricity supplier, meaning that prices will stay unchanged until January 2026. The next reason is flexibility that CCE offers. So there's 3 program options, which I'll go into more detail about coming up. And you can change which program option you're enrolled in at any time. There's no fees or penalties to do so. When you're enrolled in CCE, you're also supporting the development of clean and renewable electricity. It's a small portion of your bill goes to support a local solar project in Cambridge. And finally, all CCE program options are currently less expensive than Eversource basic service. So as I mentioned, CCE prices will stay unchanged for the next 2 years, but Eversource prices do change every 6 months. Since we don't know what Eversource prices will be after July 31st of this year, we can't guarantee future savings for CCE compared to Eversource. However, over the history of the program, the average residential customer in Cambridge has saved nearly $1,000 on their electric bill if they've been enrolled in CCE since the program started in 2017. Cambridge residential customers in total have saved over $32 million since the program began in 2017. So if you look at the chart, you'll see the CCE price in green and the Eversource price in red. Since the program started in 2017, there have been short periods of time when Eversource has been less expensive than CCE. However, CCE prices have been less expensive the vast majority of the time, and sometimes significantly so. So the Cambridge Community Electricity Program offers 3 program options: Economy Green, Standard Green, and 100% Green Plus. Economy Green is the least expensive option at 13.82 cents per kilowatt hour and includes the state required minimum amount of renewable energy, which is between 24 to 27% depending on the year. The next option is Standard Green, which is the default option that all accounts are enrolled in when they're opened. Standard Green costs 14.81 cents per kilowatt hour and includes 50% of its electricity from local renewable energy projects. If you're enrolled in CCE, this is the option that you're enrolled in unless you've taken action to opt out into a different program option. And finally, 100% Green Plus is the option that allows you to purchase all of your electricity from local renewable energy projects and costs 16.82 cents per kilowatt hour. As you can see, all CCE options are currently less expensive than the current price for Eversource basic service, meaning that the city program enables you to purchase all of your electricity from renewable sources if you choose to, and still pay less for electricity than you otherwise would if you were enrolled with Eversource as your supplier. In addition to being less expensive and offering more options to use renewable energy, CCE also offers the additional benefits that prices, again, won't change for the next 2 years, and the ability to move between these different options with no fees or penalties to do so. If you look at the backside of your bill, you can determine which program option that you're enrolled in. So the small circle on the sample bill shows the supply rate, which when multiplied with the kilowatt hours of electricity used, will determine the supply portion of your bill. So in this sample bill, supply rate is listed as 0.1481, which corresponds to the Standard Green program option. So if your bill showed 0.1682, that would mean you're enrolled in 100% Green Plus. If it showed 0.1382, that would mean that you're enrolled in Economy Green. So as a reminder, all electricity accounts are automatically enrolled in Standard Green when they're opened. So the only way that your account wouldn't be enrolled in this currently is if you've taken action to choose another program option, or if you've opted out of the program entirely. If you're unsure about which option you're enrolled in, you can also call our program administrator at 844-379-9934, and they can help confirm your enrollment. So there's a number of questions that people often have about this program. So I'll answer a few common ones here, and then we'll open it up to questions that anyone may have who's here tonight. So starting with, do other cities and towns have similar programs? The answer to this is yes. There's over 150 cities and towns in Massachusetts that has community choice aggregation programs, which is the type of program that CCE is. And that number is also growing each year. So this is certainly something that's not unique to Cambridge. There are similar programs that are all over the state. So can I be enrolled in CCE while receiving other discounts or credits on my electric bill? So the answer to this is also yes. Being enrolled in CCE does not prevent you from receiving other discounts or credits that you might be eligible for, such as the R2 discount rate, credits to your bill from being enrolled in community solar, or net metering credits generated by an on-site solar installation, such as rooftop solar on your home. So the R2 discount rate, for anyone who's unfamiliar, is you qualify with your income, and it affects the delivery portion of your bill. So if you have a qualifying income, or if you qualify for most other public benefit programs like SNAP, WIC, fuel assistance, you would qualify for this. And then whether you're, if you're enrolled in community solar, which functions as an offsite solar farm that you can buy membership in to receive a credit on your bill, or if you have on-site like rooftop solar, that would show in a section of your bill as other credits or charges. And again, CCE affects the supply portion of your bill. So all of these different ways that can help lower your bill, they affect different portions of your bill. So you're able to be enrolled in all of them simultaneously if you do qualify for them. So if I sign up for 100% Green Plus, does that change how the electricity is delivered to my home? No. the same electrons travel through the same electric grid to your home, regardless of which program option you're signed up for. Renewable energy credits, also referred to as RECs, are an electricity accounting system that tracks the creation and use of renewable energy. So when you sign up for 100% Green Plus, you're purchasing these renewable energy credits that allow you to claim the use of that renewable energy. The money used to purchase those RECs then goes to support the renewable energy projects that generated them. So how do I enroll, change my program option, or sign up for 100% renewable electricity? So you can do so online at the program website, which is masspowerchoice.com/Cambridge. You can also call the phone number 844-379-9934. So as a reminder, everyone is automatically enrolled when their electricity account was opened. So you should be enrolled in this, and you're likely enrolled in Standard Green, unless you take an option again to either opt into a different program option or to opt out of the program entirely. But if you do want to check, or if you do want to enroll in one of those other options, you can do so using either that website or phone number. So what if I want to sign up for a third-party competitive supply contract instead? So competitive supply contracts will often start with a very low price that will then significantly increase after an introductory period. They may also have a fee to break a contract early. So for example, you might receive an offer for electricity at a price of 8 cents per kilowatt hour. However, you may not realize that this price may drastically increase. Let's say it goes up to 24 cents per kilowatt hour after the first 3 months. So your electricity bill might significantly increase. And then if you try to break the contract, there could be a fee to do so. So the city does not recommend signing up for a competitive supply contract unless you fully understand it and it's something that you know that will work well for you and you fully understand those terms. If you're ever unsure if something you're receiving is about an official city program, or if it might be a third-party competitive supplier, you're always welcome to call or email, and we can help verify the information that you've received. Our partners at All in Energy also staff our Cambridge Energy Helpline. So they can help with a number of different questions in our different programs, including if you are on a competitive supply contract, they can work with you to help get you off of it. So they can join you for a phone call, talking to the supplier, and they can try and get you out of that. If they're unable to do so, they can also work with you to understand when that contract ends and follow up with you at that time to make sure that you don't re-enroll and to help you at that time get enrolled in the city's program. How many people are enrolled in the Cambridge Community Electricity Program? So out of approximately 40,000 electricity accounts in Cambridge, over 35,000 are enrolled right now in CCE. So the far majority of people are enrolled in this. So we encourage you to make sure that you do stay enrolled in this and to know what your different options are. If you do want to pay a lesser price with Economy Green, stay where you're at, or to opt to use all 100% renewable electricity. All right, so that is everything for my presentation. So I'm happy to open it up to questions. You're welcome to type any questions into the Q&A box. You are also able to raise your hand and I will unmute you and you can ask your question that way if you would like to as well. And I'll start. I'm not sure, Natalie, if any questions came in to the Q&A box throughout the presentation.
There were a few questions, and if anyone wants to read them, they can look in the answered section of the Q&A, but there are currently no unanswered questions in the Q&A box.
Great. If anyone does have questions, feel free, you can raise your hand. There is a toolbar that you should see, and you're welcome to.
And it looks like Jack Saltiel is raising a hand.
Oh, sure. Great. So let me find, I'm not seeing Jack on my screen here, so give me just a moment here.
I can unmute him.
Oh, sure. That'd be great. Thanks.
All right, Jack, you're good to go.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I'm interested in a solar co-op and have been trying to find solar co-op programs in this part of Massachusetts and have never been able to get a call back from anybody. Do you know anything about solar co-ops that might be available to residents of Cambridge?
I'm personally not. I'm not sure, Megan, if you have any insight into that.
I have not seen any solar co-ops form around here. I think the primary reason why you might not see solar co-ops pop up is because much of the way that people that are incentivized to build solar in Massachusetts is through either community solar or rooftop solar. So it might just be that co-ops are a more challenging structure and might not be as incentivized of a structure through the state incentives as community solar and rooftop solar. Because I've been working for the city for over a decade and I've never seen like a solar co-op opportunity advertised, or no one's come to talk to us about solar co-op opportunities. So if there are solar co-ops, they are well hidden from public view.
Okay, because yeah, I've been trying, even the agency that allegedly regulates them has taken some of my emails and promised to get back to me and never gotten back to me.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. This might be one of those places where you might have to be the first person to start a solar co-op, and we'll join you, Jack, in your trailblazing.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. And sorry we don't have a more productive answer for you, but thanks for the question. All right, I see Elizabeth's hand. So Elizabeth, you are unmuted. Feel free to ask your question.
Thank you. I pay my Eversource bill online, and I get it online, and I pay with auto pay or web pay. I'm not sure that the bill that I get online has all that information that you suggest, and I can't check it out right now. Do you know? I don't know whether I'm enrolled in one of these plans or, and I don't, yeah, so can you answer that?
Sure. So I'm not able to look up if you're actually enrolled myself, but you could call the phone number that I think that Natalie had put in the chat that starts with 844.
Yeah, I got that.
So they are the program administrator who can actually look up your account, and they can confirm you're enrolled and tell you which option that you're enrolled in. Even if you are enrolled in, like, auto pay and do all that online, you should be able to view still like a full copy of your bill. So you may have to, click on something to like enlarge it, or like, I'm not sure exactly what it would be, but you should still be able to view your full bill, and it should show something very similar to what we were looking at before on the sample bill. So,
Right.
so it may be something that if you log in, you're able to look at that and just know what you're looking for in terms of the supplier or the rates. But if that's harder, if it's easier to just, make a phone call, you can also call that number, and they're very responsive and can get back to you to confirm your enrollment. You can call them at any time for that.
Thanks very much.
Of course. If there's any other questions folks have, feel free again to raise your hand, or you can put a question into the Q&A.
And it looks like we do have a few more into the Q&A. So another person, Ken Lynch, asked if you can repeat how to tell what program you're enrolled in. And I can add this again in the chat. But Brad, if you want to answer that one more time, just so folks remember, go to that.
Sure. That's not it here. Let's see. Okay. Yep. So, confirming which one you're enrolled in. So this is the backside of your bill. So you should see what essentially looks like a little math equation, which will show your total kilowatt hours. So in this case, on the sample, it's 569 kilowatt hours times, and then it'll have this rate that's displayed as a decimal. So on this sample bill, it's showing the rate is 0.1481. So that would correspond to the standard green option, which we refer to as 14.81 cents per kilowatt hour. But this is just how it would be displayed on your bill. And again, if it says 0.1682, that would correspond to 100% green plus. And if it says 0.1382, that would correspond to the economy green option. So that is again on the back side of your bill. And if you're still having trouble seeing that, or if it's small and it's hard to read, or you're just not sure, again, you can call that 844 number. They can look up your account and actually confirm which one that you're enrolled into. So feel free to do that if it's helpful.
And Brad, I just looked at my Eversource bill, to put the answer in writing as well. And I noticed that my most recent bill still says 0.1369. So I think that that's a good note to folks that you might not see these new prices, which just changed at the end of January. You might see the old program prices still appearing on the bills that you're able to access. So if there's any question, like I see down here that someone says, my generation service charge shows kilowatt hours times 0.10200, that was the previous supply charge for our standard green product. So you are enrolled in standard green, and if you make no changes at all, if you just do nothing, the new supply charge that you'll see probably on your next bill will be the 1481 price. So I just wanted to note, Brad, that even on, some people might be seeing these previous prices, and that's another good reason to call the 844 number if you're confused, because you're seeing the old program prices.
So that's a good clarifying point. So again, the prices did change just in January 15th of this year. So they were unchanged for the last 3 years, and they'll now be unchanged for the next 2 years. So just starting in January, but you probably won't see the new changes reflected on your bill until the bill you receive in March, most likely. So thanks for clarifying that point.
Great. And I do think we had a hand in the chat. Elizabeth, was that you? Well, it looks like the question might have been answered. So Brad, I will give you another question. This is a question from Roy, and it looks like Roy checked his bill, did homework, and saw that they weren't enrolled in the program, and then called that 844 number to enroll, and they're now enrolled. But they said that they never remember opting out, and so suggested that we check on the 5,000 to see if they've never opted out, or make sure that these people know that they're not enrolled in the program currently.
Yep, thanks for that feedback. So we we know that most accounts are, but there could be some exceptions, or accounts that are not automatically enrolled by mistake. So it's certainly something we could look at with our program administrator to look at some of the accounts that are opted out, and to make sure, like, if we can look back and trace where those accounts opted out to make sure there wasn't some error or mistake with that. That's a good flag to maybe just make that a regular practice to check and make sure that we're enrolled. So thanks for sharing that, Roy.
All right, great. Thank you, Brad. And I'm continuing to monitor the chat. So thank you everyone who's submitting questions. I
do see a raised hand here, so maybe I'll go to the raised hand, and then Natalie, if you have some questions there, we can go. So I see Barbara, I just unmuted you, so feel free to ask your question.
Yeah, this is unrelated, but I get lots of people knocking on my door offering me solar panel analyses. And how do I know if they're reputable? Like,
yeah,
because I can see I had I just checked I had checked my bill, and I have the 10%, sorry, the 10-cent rate as well. And but clearly, my bill could go up $30 a month on a cold month with the new negotiated price.
Yeah, so the question is also, if someone's coming around knocking your door about solar, like just knowing that they're a reputable company, is that what the question is about, Barbara?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So one tool I'll just share about, which is just maybe helpful to be aware about and know, is Energy Sage. So Energy Sage is a Boston-based company, and I'm wondering if Natalie or Megan, if you could put a link for that in the chat, just so people can access that. But it allows you to solicit quotes from different solar companies in the area. So you can put in your address. It'll know, what your roof looks like and understand how viable it is for solar, you would typically upload like one of your bills, and then through Energy Sage, you'll receive different quotes from companies that you can compare side by side. So one thing that's nice about this is it's all managed through the Energy Sage platform. So you're not actually dealing with all of these different companies yourself, or soliciting quotes from them, or having them all calling you or sending messages to your email address. So it makes it very simple for you to just put in your information, and you can get quotes that you can manage through Energy Sage and just look at them all side by side and compare them. In terms of someone who might be coming around door to door, I think it's just important to know the different types of ways that they might structure solar for your roof. So one system is owning the system on your roof, in which case, you actually own that, you pay for it all, and you get all of those benefits. Another one is a power purchase agreement, or would be referred to as a PPA, in which case you do not typically pay for that installation, but you're going to essentially rent out your roof for someone else to install. And you would then usually have a negotiated rate that you would pay through that. So in that case, you don't get all of the benefits of actually owning the system on your roof, but you also don't have those same upfront costs. So those are just different models. Megan, I'm not sure if you have anything to add in terms of knowing, what to look for if a company is coming around, or just how to judge, if somebody is coming door to your door to talk about solar.
Yeah, so Barbara, is this folks that are interested that you're seeing coming door to door to offer you a rooftop solar installation, or are these folks offering you energy products that would like show up on your electricity bill?
They were both solar panels on the roof, and it was one each of the two systems that Brad just described. So one was a purchase with a long time payout, and one was leasing my roof. And I didn't follow through with either of them, but I don't know, it feels random, and they're not necessarily well identified either. I will say that. Like they don't have name tags and stuff.
Yeah, I would say that all of Brad's suggestions are really, really good in terms of, ideally you as the consumer are the one initiating the process, using a tool like Energy Sage and getting multiple quotes for your roof and having the ability to compare those quotes. And like he said, there are installer reviews on Energy Sage. You can also go to the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center website, and they have a list of the installers that have received the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center rebates, which you could use as a proxy for solar installers that do a lot of business in Massachusetts and install systems that qualify for rebates. But really, it's kind of the same as any other service provider, right? Like you would want to get multiple quotes and get references, and probably do some internet searching around people's reviews of those companies, checking Better Business Bureau, etc.
Okay, thank you.
I did notice a question that came to me directly in a chat, so I'm just going to read that. So and I can answer it here. So that question was, if I enroll in 100% Green Plus, will my Eversource bill be more? Again, most people are going to be enrolled in Standard Green, which is the default option, unless you've taken action. So if you were to sign up for 100% Green Plus, your bill would be a little bit more than if you were enrolled in either Standard Green or Economy Green. However, keeping in mind that at least right now, all three of the CCE options are still less expensive than Eversource. So even if you were in the 100% Green Plus option, you would still be paying less than you would be if you were enrolled in Eversource Basic. So just keep that in mind, but it is a little bit more expensive than if you were just to enroll in Standard Green, which is the default option. Natalie, is there anything else in the, I don't think I see any hands. Are there any other questions in the Q&A?
Sure. So we have one from Catherine Alexander saying, I get mailings from Clean Choice Energy, which, in quotations, offers only 100% renewable energy, end quotes, and quote, is not affiliated with Eversource, end quote. Have you heard of this company? Is it legit?
I think Megan, I think this is a competitive supplier, but I think you mentioned maybe knowing this specific company last time that we had a question similar to this.
Yeah, so Clean Choice Energy is one of many, I mean, there's maybe even hundreds of competitive electricity suppliers that operate in Massachusetts. And they are offering you electricity supply. They primarily offer renewable electricity that comes from outside of our region. So oftentimes these companies will say, hey, we're using 100% renewable electricity. It's sourced from places like Texas, where renewable electricity is actually the cheapest electricity to build, and it doesn't actually need additional payments the way that Massachusetts renewable electricity projects actually need that additional cost to get developed. So part of the reason why the city of Cambridge has our Cambridge Community Electricity Program is because we don't want to have every resident have to weigh, the merits of every single competitive electricity supplier. We are offering 100% renewable electricity. It is sourced from Massachusetts Class 1 RECs. You know that when you're purchasing renewable electricity, you're supporting it in your region with impactful renewable energy certificates. There are, like I said, many other competitive electricity suppliers, and it gets very tricky for individuals to figure out all of the ins and outs of their contracts. Some of them have, if you want to leave a contract early, you have to pay a price to leave the contract. And so because of all of those consumer protection worries, we recommend that folks stick with the Cambridge Community Electricity Program, because it doesn't have those fluctuating prices, kind of weak renewable electricity, or even, difficult to leave contracts.
Great. Thank you, Megan, for that answer. And I'll pose another question to you two, which is, why do people opt out altogether of these three offerings? What do they see as the downside, or why else?
Sure. So I think we find in most cases that people are opting out in favor of a competitive supply contract. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I think the number that would opt out and enroll in Eversource Basic Services is pretty low. Usually what we're seeing is that people are opting out in favor of one of these third-party contracts. And the reason typically is because they often have a lower initial introductory price. So somebody, if they come to your door and they ask you about your electric bill, you might say, I'm paying 14 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity. And they will say, I can offer you something that's 8 cents per kilowatt hour. And, that price, again, may be introductory. It's going to increase after that initial period. And there might be other fees associated with it. So typically, these are somewhat predatory practices that they're going to try and use, sales tactics or make things sound really good when there might be a lot more details in the fine print that's really important and could impact the actual price that you might pay. So typically that's the reason. For most of the last 3 years, the city's prices have been just about the lowest in the state. So we know that the Cambridge program offers really competitive pricing, and it's very transparent. And we know that it's generally a good deal for consumers. So that's why we encourage people to stay enrolled in the program.
Great, thanks, Brad. And someone was just checking, so they're saying it sounds like 5,000 customers, based on the numbers that you shared in this slide, are currently not enrolled in any of the city's CCE programs.
That's right. Yep. So of about 40,000 residential accounts, about 35 or a little bit more than 35 are enrolled right now. So I think that's about 80, I think it was like 85 something percent. So most accounts.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you all so much for continuing to send questions. It looks like we have one additional question, asking about the frequency of supply and when frequency of the contracts being reviewed. Megan, I'm not sure if you just want to answer that live.
Sure. Yeah, so it says, can you explain who in the city is deciding on the sources of the green energy supply and what that process entails? So I'll just answer that first part. I am the staff person that works with the finance office, the procurement office, and the city manager's office to competitively procure the electricity that is part of the Cambridge Community Electricity Program. When the city goes out to market, we receive prices for many different lengths of supply contracts, anywhere as short as a 12-month contract to anywhere as long as a 36 to 48-month contract. And we review those prices and the sort of pluses and minuses of a long contract versus a short contract based on market conditions. And then a final decision is made where the city manager enters into one of those contracts as on behalf of the community electricity program. The green energy supply, that has also been a long and ongoing discussion within the Community Development Department's Environment and Transportation Planning Division. Right now, where we've landed is on Massachusetts Class 1 RECs as the most impactful product for renewable electricity available to Cambridge residents and businesses. We are also simultaneously going out to market for virtual power purchase agreements where we would be actually investing in new renewable energy projects, and that is an even more impactful way to support the creation of renewable electricity. So for right now, we are using Massachusetts Class 1 RECs as the most impactful way to support renewable energy development in the Massachusetts region. But we are looking at new strategies like virtual power purchase agreements, where the city would be essentially investing in building new renewable electricity projects to serve the aggregation.
Thanks, Megan. I see there was another question that came to me as a direct message, so I'll just read it here and respond to it, which was, so my unit is all electric. Therefore, am I better off staying on the standard green option rather than the other two? So if your unit's all electric, you're probably using a lot of electricity. So it depends what your biggest concern is, or what your interests are for paying for electricity. So if you're all electric and you really want to be paying the least amount, you can enroll in the economy green, or you could stay in the standard green option, which is just about 1 cent more than economy green. So that's going to be a pretty minimal difference that you would actually pay on a monthly bill. If you're using all electricity and you want to actually have all of that come from renewable resources, you could opt up to 100% green. That is a little bit more expensive. So it just depends on what your priorities are, depending on which program option is best for you. I know we had a lot of questions that were submitted in the Q&A and were answered in writing there. So if anyone, I don't see any other hands, but if anyone has any other questions, you can still put them in the Q&A, or if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to just raise your hand and we can answer any final questions if there are any. All right, I see a hand from Diana. So you should be able to unmute now, Diana, and ask your question. So Diana J, I know you have your hand up, so I did just unmute you. So if you do have a question, you're welcome to ask it. Okay, maybe not a question. That's okay. Anyone else is free to raise their hand or submit any final questions if we do have any. And I do see one from Rosemary. So Rosemary, go ahead.
I just realized I was looking at all of the Eversource charges, and 3 of those have gone up: distribution, revenue decoupling, and distributed solar energy. But at the top of all of these things, it says rate 01 R1 residential prorated. What on earth does all that mean?
So the R1 is the standard residential rate that most people will be enrolled in. Megan, I'm not sure if you have if there's any more information of that than just that.
And prorated, what would that be?
Prorated?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the prorated portion means.
I'm gonna look at my bill and see what it says, because I mean, R1 is just the rate class. You know, if you were a business, you would have a different rate class. If you were a large commercial building, you'd have a different rate class. If you receive income qualified benefits through Eversource, you have a different rate class. So R1 is just the standard residential rate class.
Okay.
Mine also says prorated. I do not know why it says prorated, and that would be something that we could follow up with you on, because that's a mystery to me as well. It might have something to do with whether they've read the meter that month or whether it's an estimated. I have really no clue why the word prorated is there, but we could follow up and find out.
Well, as I mentioned, 3 of the items they break down are more than they showed on my last bill. So maybe the change occurred somewhere between bills, and that's what the prorated thing is.
That is possible that these delivery charges have changed. So yeah, that could be a
Maybe
very
that's what it is.
feasible explanation for that.
Maybe. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosemary. I know that Diana had said her mic was not working. So here we see, I see she just wrote a question. So let me see. So, so in your slide about subscribing to 100% Green Plus, you mentioned that nothing changes in the energy mix that's delivered. So besides making a donation to renewable energy projects, is there any long-term benefits? So what, more about understanding what claiming RECs means. So in this case, the electric grid is, again, anyone who's receiving electricity is receiving the same electrons through the same wires through, the same electric grid. So what RECs or renewable energy credits are is essentially an accounting system for energy that's generated that goes into the grid. So in this case, what Megan is referred to is Class 1 RECs. Massachusetts Class 1 RECs is the highest rated category of renewable energy credits, which are going to be projects that are in New England and that are and that are newer projects. So when you are paying that premium on that, you are supporting more generation of electricity from these solar and wind and renewable energy projects that also over time has the effect of making the full grid greener as well. So even though the electricity you're using in the moment is the same electricity, you are supporting the development of renewable energy, and you are in the moment claiming the use of that, because even if that electricity goes into the grid somewhere else, the way it works is that only one person will be claiming that individual electron from that electricity that's generated. So it's essentially functions as an accounting system, but it supports the development of that so that over time more are built and are supported, and the entire grid does get more renewable electricity over time. Okay. Just checking anything else here.
Did Rosemary Noren get her question answered? I just saw Rosemary's hand, but it just went down.
Yes, she had asked a question
great.
before. Natalie, are there any other questions in the Q&A?
No, it looks like all of the questions that folks had have either been answered in that Q&A box. And if you didn't see your question answered, you just go to the Q&A box and you should see all the answers, or they were answered during this session. One thing to note that someone did ask in the Q&A is about the recording. So the recording will be posted on the Community Development Department YouTube page, and I put the link in the chat. But we can also send an email to participants once it's posted to just let you know that link has been posted.
Thanks, Natalie. And we do, once we have the recording, we are going to get it transcribed so that we can include captions. And so we'll do that, and then we'll post the recording. And as Natalie said, we can send an email around to participants to make sure that you know that that recording is available. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to reach out at any point. You can always send an email to climate@cambridgema.gov. That's something that I monitor, as well as a few colleagues. So any questions about this or just any other energy, program related questions that you may have, feel free to reach out anytime with those. And I do thank everyone for being here. Sorry that we didn't have more snow today, or maybe you're glad we didn't have more snow today, but here we all are. So I'm glad that everyone can make it, and we didn't have any issues being here together this evening. So thanks again. And again, reach out at any point with questions if you do have some. Thanks, and have a great night.